Okay, we're going to talk about a new framework that I created called leadership preparedness. I believe this is the emerging emphasis that every leader needed to know yesterday. It's so important, and I'm going to be sharing why. I really appreciate you getting involved in this conversation because clearly there is a crisis of leadership. We're looking at all of the craziness and the challenges that are going on around us and we're like, what is going on? Yes, stuff is just speeding up all around us. The world is getting smaller and smaller, and the challenges are getting bigger and bigger. But I'm going to tell you one of the root issues that's happening at the organizational level. It's a crisis of leadership. We are desperately in need of real leadership that can help us navigate the uncharted territory with safe passage. And yet, so many leaders are opting out, they're failing, they're burning out, they're going shipwreck, and it's a big deal. I saw a stat that said 70% of executives say they are currently overwhelmed by the choices and the complexity that they're facing. I mean, think of this. This is just wild. We're talking about leaders in business and ministry that have probably invested the majority of their adult lives to get to the apex where they can be an executive at the top of the org chart. And they're saying, this is too much. We've never been here before. And it's sad when leaders are failing and falling at such a rapid rate. And we've got to do something about this because the next generation is looking at this and they're saying, why would I ever want to aspire to be in a leadership position in a church, in a nonprofit, in a ministry that's doing some sort of kingdom good when all I see is not just the scandals, but I see the health crisis, I see the dysfunction, I see the challenges. And this leaves organizations vulnerable. Like you need to be thinking about not just the next few months, you need to be thinking about the organization's next few moves. Like, what is this whole thing going to be looking like in the next 10, 20, or 30 years from now? And do you even have prepared leaders for that? And it's not about who you can just hire from the outside. It's really thinking about the culture that you've got and the framework. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let's get into this. Why is there such a crisis of leadership? Simply put, many leaders are painfully unprepared. They were not prepared for the antagonism, the adversity, the lack of support and advocacy in their roles. Many of them stepped into leadership roles, and then the older generation, the old guard of one leadership model, now is attacking them, trying to innovate and create a hopeful future there. They were not prepared for the changes in culture and in context, and they were definitely not prepared for uh, really going off road. And that's what's happening now. Many leaders are being forced to find new reference points and they don't exist. So that's why leadership as we know it is dangerously outdated. And get it. I get it. I grew up in the leadership boom. I know about all the books. I know about the conferences and all of these amazing, thought leaders and coaches and executives that have given us the leadership lexicon that we all just kind of spat back and forth all the time. Whether it's working on your culture, going further faster, uh, being a servant leader, being a self leader, communication, delegation, automation, elimination. You need to be intentional. You need to be missional. It's like we're saying all this stuff in the leadership lexicon, and it's not translating to the new fields where the future is happening. Now, you're not going to hear a critic today. You're going to hear a wild, passionate champion for the leadership community at large. In fact, I'm so thankful for all of these thought leaders that have gotten us to this point. I'm just saying we can't repeat what they gave us to show up ready for the future. We have to follow their example and really tap into the essence of what they were doing, which is pioneering paradigms, pioneering frameworks. They were giving us new language and new understanding so that way we could engage thoughtfully in the moment. And we're in such a massive opportunity, y'all. Like, we've got to get out of the battle fatigue. We've got to get out of the fog of war. We've got to get out of the trauma and the drama that's just kind of left us shell shocked in these different leadership roles that are just hunkering down on business as usual and hunkering down in survival mode. And we need to have fresh eyes again and really believe what Jesus said. Look out. Look at the harvest fields that are out there because the opportunities are massive. We need to really get a grip on the amazing window of opportunity that we live in, with the opportunities of technology, of transportation, of just access to different nations, cooperation, innovation. I mean, it's just wild. And we need to be leveraging those opportunities with kingdom intentionality. So leadership as we know it is dangerously outdated. The methods, the models, the mindsets, they are keeping leaders stuck, and they're not helping leaders prepare for the new fields where the future is happening. Now, you're saying, Peter, maybe you're being a little too harsh. I think there's a lot of good going on right now. Yes, absolutely. Definitely. But here's what it really comes down to. You can have a fun run in your business, in your team, in your church plant, but what is it going to look like when you're not there? And I don't mean on vacation. I mean, when you have to hand off everything you've worked on to the next generation. What is the next generation of your organization going to look like? Is it going to still be around? Is it going to be this hollow shell of what it started out as? Is it going to be a bitter version of the joyful golden hours, the golden years that you had? Is it going to go off the rails, into some kind of distorted ideology that it gets hijacked, like a really good, pure-hearted organization gets hijacked? It happens all the time. Don't think that you're immune to this. Or is it going to be vibrant? Is it going to have fresh vision? Is it going to keep carrying on with the commissioning moment that the founders gave it and that the founders really carried for it? So leadership as we know it needs to become leadership the way others will need it in the future. We've got to be thinking about that. And so that's why I really believe we need to keep pioneering leadership. We need to take the leadership journey further. We need to be ready to go much further than we've been willing to go. I mean, not just talking about what leadership needs to look like in the next few months. What does leadership need to look like as a movement? When we really look at our industries and our institutions, do we have prepared leaders to take this thing further than us? And are we going to invest our best into expanding our capacity and expanding our organizational capacity so that way we're expanding into new fields? And that's the only choice that I see. Either we are expanding or we're expiring. Either we are going into these new fields or we're shrinking back. And the safest place that we can put our organizations and our teams and the people that we're, caring for is you got to put them in the new fields. Because if they can get in the new fields, everything they need will be waiting on them there. And that is a whole nother conversation for later. But we need to be pioneering leadership itself. We need to be understanding what are the skills that leaders in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years are going to be really great at? Let's talk about the future of church. Let's talk about the future of business, of education. Let's talk about the future of cities and states and nations. Let's talk about the future of all kinds of industries and institutions, and let's reimagine them with a hopeful future in mind. And let's not just be so preoccupied with preserving things that won't last, because it's just this bitter struggle in all of these like sharp culture wars, instead of realizing that we're meant to be change agents that bring a new dawn and bring real reformation. And we're not just trying to overextend some wonderful time that we've had and left in the past. So I'm not saying that we don't act as salt and light. We absolutely push back on the delay and decay. We absolutely expose the evil and the the inefficiencies that keep us from making real progress as the Lord sees it. But I believe there's an opportunity to pioneer new paths, to get people into new fields, so that way they can be a part of the hopeful future. So that's why I'm convinced that the emerging emphasis is going to be leadership preparedness. Now, I created this phrase, so you're like, what is this? Let me try to unpack it just a little bit. I want to give my wife credit because she was my soundboard through this process. And leadership preparedness is really the overlap of these two really known concepts, right? We know leadership, we love it, we're all leaders in one way or another. But the emphasis is leadership preparedness. Preparedness is making sure you're ready to respond when something's needed. And so I'm saying, are we preparing leaders for the new fields? Are we preparing leaders to expand? And are we preparing leaders to take organizations further? So you've got to have prepared leaders, because that's how you deal with the crisis. It's not going to be your contingencies, your strategies. It's going to be just great people that have been prepared to step up and lead, and they know how to lead themselves, lead by example, lead together on teams, and lead into these emerging opportunities that are coming, instead of being so fearful of deviating from some path that was never meant to be the only way that we operate. And so it's hopefully a image and a metaphor that we can all relate to, because it's about being prepared for the journey of leadership, not just the job that leaders have right now. Are you willing to go on a journey through different phases of life and then new fields where leadership is needed? And I want us to be expanding, because we either expand or we expire. Either we are taking new fields or we're shrinking back. There's nothing in between. We've got to be willing to go on this journey. And so there's 3 attributes that I could say right now. There's other things I'd love to talk about, but really my plumb line for this whole idea is Luke chapter 10, verse 2. Jesus said, you've got to see the opportunity. You've got to see the fields are massive. They're ripe. They're ready. And the crisis is that you won't have enough laborers to get into the fields. And that's what I'm saying, is so many organizations, good-hearted people that have given their time, money, effort into these businesses, family businesses, ministries, family ministries, whatever you want to call it. They have labored long and well, but if they're not able to get into the new fields where they need to be showing up for the future, then they're just shrinking back in a past and a place that has a sunset on it. And that's why I want to really help us stay energized and not be so exhausted by the draining effect of time, but really be renewed, so that way we can redeem the time. And so that's kind of the plumb line, is look at the opportunity. Be inspired by the opportunity, be motivated by the opportunity. Don't look at the, the crisis and the anxiety that's going on. That's going to keep you in survival mode. That's going to make you shrink back and just keep contracting and contracting. And little by little, you're just letting go and giving up ground, and you don't realize what it's doing to you and what it's doing for those around you. And so we really got to, get a grip on this and see the opportunity and be motivated by the opportunity to grow our capacity and to keep expanding. And we're going to expand into new fields with prepared leaders. That's the difference. Do you have leaders prepared for the opportunity or not? Do you have leaders? Do you have people that could step up and lead an initiative? Do you have people that could step up and lead in a new way when the opportunity comes, when the new field is made available? Do you have people that you can extend and expand, or are you the one who is going to be overextended and then you get stretched too thin and you don't realize what happened? It's that your capacity was meant to keep growing and you didn't, and so the little kept getting pulled and stretched until it was miserable and was unbearable. And it's one or the other. We're either shrinking back and getting smaller, or we are expanding. And what's amazing is if you're willing to prepare leaders for the new fields, they will actually help you figure out the future. Now hear that. If you're willing to prepare leaders for the new fields, I'm not talking about replacing you yet, replacing you permanently. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about let's grow our team. Let's grow our capacity. Let's go bigger, and let's get bigger on the inside. And if you'll help people find their field to lead in, because everybody has a field they can be leading in. If we can help people find the fields that they can be leading in, whether it's through a community or a company, they're going to help you figure out the future, because there are opportunities in those new fields that are not available where you are right now. So anyways, there's a lot to be said about this, but Luke 10:2 is a powerful thing. That the crisis is that there's too much opportunity for any one person to handle. And if we'll learn how to prepare laborers who will show up as leaders in these different fields, then together we can have a hopeful future. So that's the emphasis, is pray that way, prepare others to go. And it's always a leadership conversation in my mind. It's a leadership preparedness conversation. There's 3 attributes that I mentioned. It is faith-centered. This whole framework is faith-centered. Luke 10:2. It's future-focused, meaning we can't be preoccupied with daily grinding. We have to be preparing for future growth. And that's a hopeful perspective, and people need hope more than ever. And then finally, it's a frontline ready response. It's really about getting into the new fields. It's not about leadership at HQ. It's about leadership in the field. And that's really the disconnect, or even the dark side of just leadership development, because leadership development is about developing people to be leaders in a certain setting where you already are. Leadership preparedness is the humility to say, man, I'm training you and I'm trusting you to go further than we've gone before, to figure out stuff that we've never had to deal with before. Like, you've got to have a lot of humility to develop leaders that you deploy. And that's what it looks like to really save an organization. So my call to action is simple. Get prepared now. Man, get prepared now. Number one, get excited about the opportunities that are out there. Be so focused on the possibility, about the adventure, about the calls to action that are waiting on you. And realize that when you dream, you were never meant to do the thing on your own. When you dream, and when the Lord puts a dream in your heart, he's always got a team in mind to help you with it. And it's not a bunch of cliches, that we kind of duct tape together and say, okay, this is our culture. It really is a pioneering approach that is hands-on and hopeful. And so we got to be preparing right now. We need to be preparing while we can, because the opportunity of a lifetime is out there, but it's only available in the lifetime of the opportunity. So there's a window of time that we have to see and seize, so that way others are being sustained during a season of disruption and shaking. So this is a massive conversation. Leaders need to beware. They need to take it to heart, but they also need to take courage, because I believe there is actually a strategy to strengthen many, many leaders. There's a strategy to strengthen many, many good organizations, and it's called leadership preparedness. So you're like, okay, Peter, what does it look like? I'm ready to, get prepared and get going. I would say it's about growing your capacity and making sure that you are making progress in your own life, north, south, east, and west, so that you can be leading others. So that way you don't have to be overwhelmed by the drama and the trauma of being a leader. You actually have a larger capacity, not just to handle a bunch of people in a management role, but you can actually lead other leaders. You can team up with other great thinkers and even futurists that care about the direction of the organization or the industry or the institution. And out of that, you grow your capacity so that way you can collaborate well with people on a higher level. And then as you grow your organizational capacity, then you can start expanding the organization into new fields. And so it's kind of those three tiers. You got to be working on your capacity, your team's capacity, and then your organization's capacity. And every step is a leadership journey. It's not just about, the job of being the team leader that you are. It's about the journey that you have to go on, which is unlearning leadership the way we've heard it, which is more of a business management approach, but really see leadership in the pioneering light of taking initiative, of being willing to choose the uncharted way, taking on the risks, and really going for it in, I would say, something of an entrepreneurial, I hope I said that right, like an entrepreneur would kind of have that kind of imagination and creativity about what's possible, but also just to be willing to trailblaze a path that doesn't exist yet for the sake of others. So that's my heart. You're seeing a little bit about me there: believer, pioneer at heart, husband, girl, dad, second generation pastor, and executive coach for St. Peter. Why do you say that? One, I want you to know me. I want you to know that I'm just another person who, cares about the direction of our future. But also, I want you to see a case study of what is important. It's about making progress in that multifaceted, holistic view of you. That's what's going to get you into the hopeful future, a holistic view of you, really growing as a person. And that's why I don't just say I'm an executive coach. I don't just say I'm a second generation pastor, because it's all of those aspects of my life that are helping me become the person who can relate well with others, who can team up with other leaders, who can, dream and team well. And yeah, that's my hope for you, is that you personally make uncharted progress in every direction of your life. And that out of that, you can create great leadership communities that are expanding the capacity of the organizations they are a part of into new territory. And it's the new fields. And the way you get there is by prepared leaders. You got to have prepared leaders. In fact, as you do all your planning for the new year, I would ask yourself, okay, these are all great ideas. These are great programs. These are great initiatives. How many prepared leaders do we have to run these? Or are we going to try to run all these, through some sort of hierarchical organizational thing? And I'm not just talking about decentralized. There's different models of leadership. Again, we need new frameworks, but I'm serious. Like, you need to match, you need to have a side by side and say, okay, This is the strategy for the year. This is the structure of people that we have. Does it match? Do you have enough prepared leaders to expand? And if you don't, then you're in crisis already. And that's why you need to call me, so you stay encouraged, you stay engaged, and we help you get prepared leaders. We help you grow a great capacity, so that way you are just at peace. You're at peace with the process. You know that God's the one who makes things grow, and you see growth in your own life. You're not just seeing a narrow view of success, which is the most visible side of you. We're seeing growth in private ways, in personal ways, in spiritual ways, in relational ways, in financial ways. We're seeing you really thrive as a person. It's helping you rise higher in your leadership journey, so that way you can handle the disruption and the crisis going on around you, but you're undisturbed. You got undisturbed peace. You're able to be a strength and not a burden. You resonate with people. You speak with a brave face authentically. You don't have to fake optimism. You don't have to force, this sense of unity. Man, you got an honest, authentic, brave face. It's because you've been growing as a person. You're now showing up as a leader in multiple spaces, and people appreciate it. The future is not going to the most productive. The future is going to the most prepared. So get prepared to lead now, and get prepared leaders to go with you into the future. When you're expanding, your team's expanding, the organization's expanding, there's always new fields waiting on you, big opportunities to take on, and a hopeful future waiting on us. So thanks again. You're like, wow, what do I do now? Just let's talk. Please book a call right now. There's some button down here. I want you to book a call. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to help you pick your path, so you know exactly how to get started. And from there, we'll see if it's a good fit. And I would love to work with you through executive coaching, or if it works out, then I'll be happy to help your organization as well. Stay encouraged, guys, and talk soon.